Happy Emma M. Nut Day, and welcome to the 21st season of the Sandlot Fantasy Football League. With me this week, I've got Nick. What's going on, Nick?
I'm sorry, what day is today?
Emma
What
M.
about-
Nut Day. We'll get to
What
that in a
about
second.
M&M's nuts?
Well, we got Hillers here. Emma M. Nut. It's a
Okay.
woman. Any idea on who she was?
Suffragette?
Is she good at making sandwiches?
Perhaps. But she was the first woman telephone operator. So, I don't know if it was the first one that the men...
Can't see that.
The first lady that the men let touch a telephone or something. I don't know how that works, but
Interesting.
no, I guess back when they
just
did
gotta say,
switchboards
though-
and stuff, she was the first woman to be on a switchboard.
Oh, is
Something,
she is she the accent of that old timey voice from like the 30s that everybody made her?
Oh, you see? Yeah.
Operator? Was she the one that had that voice?
Maybe. I don't know.
A little inside
Can only
podcast knowledge
assume.
though. At 14 seconds, I was definitely going to start to say something. I was like, that's a little jerkish.
So anyway, we drafted, guys. We're going to do a little preseason
Oh boy, did we
podcast.
all over the place.
Go over each team's draft. Admire the trophy in the background if you want to. Feel free. And
How good is your camera?
and
And
maybe,
can we do 4K of my eye roll right here?
Looks like it hurts.
Well, that extended to your neck. That was great.
Yeah. It's like I'm
You should've
slowly
heard it.
waiting for it to get eclipsed by your head. You know? Like we're watching a celestial event.
Yeah. So, and then we'll do some predictions at the end, I guess, for division
Cool.
winners and stuff. So,
Ooh.
thoughts on draft weekend, guys? How do we think it went?
Fun, good times. I mean, it's weird how like as we become more ancient and decrepit that we pay less attention to the teams and just try to have like a nice time, but at the same time people tend to be getting better. I think the league is more parity every year to at the point like it's just like small degradations and then Watson.
Oh, yeah. It's funny you mentioned the parity because I do my very unofficial power rankings every year after the draft, and this is the closest in the last. I only have from like the last 5 years. This is the closest top to bottom that they've been points wise in my power rankings. So, so this not that means anything at all, but just based on what you said, Hillers, and based on how my very unofficial and totally subjective numbers wound up, we kind of line up on that.
What we call the Merrill Watson Gulf is smaller than it's ever been.
Watson not at the bottom actually.
No, wow.
No. Actually,
What a year.
No.
What a year.
Nick, I know you were not loving your team halfway through the draft. How do you think? You finished up?
Oh, well, I mean, we can get into our teams in a minute, but I think that in general that I'm very excited about at the draft, like on the day itself, I think I was hitting that point where I was coming down from being drunk and starting a hangover and hadn't started drinking yet. So I was like, I just want to get the shit started and going with. So I feel like there were some key moments and some key things that could have been said and done at the draft itself that were missed. I.e., we had, for the first time ever, all 12 of us together, and we didn't take a league photo. Kind of a missed opportunity. I can look through my video that I took, and maybe we have all 12 of us there.
No, do that.
That'd be fun. I think just in general, like even when you guys were like calling, we're like, "Hey, league commissioner, do you have anything to say before we go?" And I'm just like, "Whatever, let's just get this shit started." Like that's not very commissioner-like. Like we should have had something a little more inspiring. And I think I regret that I didn't have something a little more profound to say, more energetic, and like, dude, let's get this going. It's so exciting.
We'll just give you the text to Bill Pullman's speech from Independence Day.
Yeah,
next
I
time,
think
and
next
you
year.
can Just do that.
Or we get a cameo. we all pitch in and get a cameo. Get like Scott Hansen to do a cameo to announce the start. Of the draft.
There we go.
Like how sick would that be?
League champion should do that. I think
Like,
that's
4 months of Sandlot Fantasy Football starts now.
It's me, Frank.
You know
Gore.
what? I think that if we've kind of joked that the money that the league winner wins doesn't really. It's not about the money; it's about the trophy. And if you took $200 off the winnings, like to say, like here's a cameo to pay for a cameo,
Gave it to
would the
Frank
league
Gore.
really care?
It's a little
Frank
about the
Gore,
money,
yeah.
but yeah,
It's a little not about the money.
money's nice, but yeah,
I don't know who
And I
we're
think
going to get
before we
for
get into the-
$200 though.
that's Scott
I think
Hansen's
before we get
about
into
200,
the-
I think.
Yeah, okay.
I think before we get into the teams, I do want to bring up one point about something, and This might catch you guys a little off guard, but so spontaneous discussion. Let's go. I love our rules discussions, and I think that it's great for the league to be able to inject new ideas and new proposals and new things to happen to energize the league and to keep it from being stale and to interject new ideas. I think that on the cuff, we have 5 minutes to discuss, make a decision, and vote on something that we are basing purely on a 5-minute window of discussion without letting it sit and think about it for a minute. And we are making decisions that decide our league for an entire year based on just a few minutes of discussion. I would like to extend some of the things that we discussed to say, like, okay, like our rosters this year. We decided that we were going to eliminate one of the roster positions, right? Like that's what we voted on. As a league, we decided that our 15-man roster.
Here we go with the wording of it. We're removing a bench spot. Is what we're doing.
God.
Removing a bench spot. We are removing a bench spot.
Along with the position that used to be there.
No, we're not removing the position. We are.
Not true.
Okay.
No, kicker's gone forever.
Kicker's gone. Kicker's replaced by a flex, and we're removing a bench spot. That's the new rosters.
Right. So it's the same amount of people. It's just
nope.
Regardless.
Oh my God.
It's not. It's not the same amount of people.
It's happening again. Oh no.
It is.
It's not. We had 7 bench spots. Now we're gonna have 6.
Let's move along.
That's
please.
it. That's the change. It's that simple.
Oh my God.
I would like to just have this discussion with you guys that says that at the draft that seems to make sense. Having a year to go through after we voted on something like this. Because right now, because we don't have that extra flex spot in play this year. We have a whole year before the extra flex spot comes into play, right? Let's put this thing up to a vote again next year and let that be the decision whether or not we're going to implement it that year. Because I think that at the moment, people are basing their decisions on a gut of like, this is what's going on and this makes sense without having actually seen what the repercussions could be. And I think that at least now knowing we went through a draft saying we're going to we are adding a flex position, removing a bench spot. Let's see what this looks like going into the draft next year and be like, oh wait, no, I don't actually like this. I want to put that spot back in. What I want to do is I want to vote. I want to have a vote of confirmation the following year whenever we make a big change like this, just to make sure that we are, in fact, after a year of thinking about it, yes, this is the big kind of change that we want to implement.
Okay.
We could do like, does anyone want to change their vote from last year or something, if that's what you're saying. But I don't know that I agree with the premise entirely. I think if the only time you thought about what we want to replace kicker with was that 5 minutes when we were doing a rules discussion, I don't know that that's true for people in our league. I think people were probably
we're not talking about
all we think about all day and night.
The rules, but we weren't voting on what the rule position should, or what the position should be. We are actually the vote. Actually, that I'm specifically referring to is the roster spot, because changing it to a flex position is one thing, but changing the roster construction of how many people we can have is actually a completely different game-changing type of situation. So I think that saying I'm going to now we're going to remove a bench spot so we can promote this, like, mathematically makes sense. But even seeing after this draft this year, like looking at it saying, oh shit, if I'm going to promote one of these players to my flex position, I kind of do want that extra bench spot now to be able to say that.
It's almost like I wish somebody was saying that during the discussion when we were.
But some people just like, but you know what? Yeah, you should have, and you did say that. But you know what? There were at least seven other people who said that. Yeah, we hear you, but we don't want that. And now, and you know what?
Were you one of those people, and now you're saying you're not so sure about it?
I'm saying that there is some wiggle room in the way that it's constructed, and that I would actually like to see more variability in it. And that I like.
What does that mean?
We should get rid of the running backs and the wide receiver cap that we have if we're going to do something. Like, I don't know, maybe that's what it is.
I beg of you both to move on. This is going to be an email conversation that takes a very long time. This is bad podcasting.
Make sure you comment. Comment below. Let us know what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well.
Smash that bell.
So honestly,
so boring to listen to.
All I'm saying is that
I don't think it is
going into the draft after we make a league-changing decision like this. the following year we should have a confirmation draft to say, like, do we still feel that this is the right thing?
No, because I think the following year you can just bring up the rule again. Like, you can say somebody could have brought up and said, "I want to bring kickers back this year," and we could have voted on it.
No one accepted it. It was immediately squashed.
But you can bring it up. I mean, you just vote the other way.
You didn't.
Year.
I don't think you brought it up, Ellerson.
I think I did.
I don't think you did. I was kind of surprised.
No, you actually didn't. What you said is you wanted to bring kickers in the flex position. You did not say to bring back kickers.
The other thing
that was immediately quashed.
Just going back to that, the reduction of bench spots. The other thing that's going to cause us to do is eat through fab faster, because you're not going to be able to keep as many people in reserve. Bye weeks are going to come, and you're going to have to just spend more fab.
Let's see a year. Our rosters are staying the same for a year. We will revisit it this, and I just want to say that a situation like this is a thing where at the draft next year, before casting in stone, this is what it is. Next year at the draft, let's do a confirmation vote and say this is a league-changing decision. Let's make sure that this is what.
Always,
just like if we were to switch to a super flex. Just like if we decide 1 year we're going to go to a super flex. I don't know. All right. Let's.
Yeah, we'll think. We'll talk about it. Yeah, I don't know about. Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying, but like, I don't know, man. It's just fantasy football to some degree. It's like,
is the airing of grievances from rules yelling done?
It's like
can we do the podcast part of the podcast?
At some point, it's a stupid game we play online for fun, and just so we can watch football and have an interest in it. So it's like, how much?
Sorry, guys.
I would say as we're doing a podcast about our stupid little league, I guess. But
let's talk about the teams.
Yeah. So and then just to recap the rules changes for those who want to know, there was
you can skip teams. Are they good?
We went through.
Do they know things? Let's find out.
Allow viewing of all fab bids, even ones that failed. That got rejected. Changing doubleheader weeks, so that actually it was just to change the doubleheader week off of week 1. That got rejected 7-3. We decided to replace kicker with flex next year. So we will be. Got to be careful here. We're going to add a starting spot back to our rosters next year, and it's going to be a flex spot. In addition to that, we're going to be removing a bench spot from our rosters as well. We also passed a rule that says in order for a player to be on the IR on your starting or in your lineup, they have to be on the NFL IR, which we need to change that rule on the site, Nick, I think at some point. Yep. I don't know if we've done that yet or not. And then Anthony proposed that if a kicker misses an extra point and you have that kicker, which you wouldn't because we got rid of kickers, you have to drop the best player on your team.
No, a player dropped at random.
At random, which also got rejected, but did get 2 votes. So.
AKA the greatest rule in history.
Talk about embracing the chaos. So anyway.
I love it.
Cool. That's that.
All right.
Do some team overviews here.
What about the teams?
We'll start with the dad dicks.
What sort of dicks should we start with first?
Who we've been looking at.
Dad?
Boogie dicks.
On the screen here for you. And let me pull up the draft board. Dad dicks kept James Cook, David Montgomery, Jamar Chase, and CeeDee Lamb. Not bad. Big draft picks were Zamir White.
At all.
Zamir White at 30. Hang on. Yeah, Zamir White at 30.
Zay Flowers at 19.
Jaden Daniels at 11. Zay Flowers at 19. Devin Singletary at 17.
Devin Singletary at 17.
Yeah. Mike Williams at 7 and Cortland Sutton at 7. So, what are our thoughts, Nick? You wanna go first here?
I don't understand why it took me until this offseason to realize that he has the top 2. Like, he has 2 of the top 3 wide receivers on his team. Like,
oh my god,
I don't know why. I never really realized that CeeDee Lamb was an elite top guy.
Top 3,
so long.
Maybe top 1 this year.
It really only kicked in the second half of last year is when he really started just the top came off and just
shredding.
Yeah, going absolutely ham.
So I mean, it's in a PPR league. That's really tough to do. I don't think I think James Cook is not James Cook. I think David Montgomery is a great value pick because he's going to go for that in the draft, which I think a lot of this season was this offseason, or the keeper selection was more a question of I'm not going to be able to get this guy for this much. Like, it's not so much a value pick as much as it was like, I just want to have a running back. I just want to have RB2 locked up. Than it was whether or not they're going to be worth it.
Yep.
I mean, I don't necessarily. This is spoiler. This is the thing I'm going to say. Like, for a lot of the teams is I don't necessarily love the draft itself, but I also think this draft was just bad in general. I hated this year's draft. I hated everything about this year's draft. In terms of player talent.
Don't hate the draft. I hate the draft here.
I 100% hate the I hate the game and the player. Don't get me wrong. I think $17 for Devin Singletary is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So is this a good team?
Again, all right. You know what? He had little holes to fill, and he was able to do that. So good job.
Way to fill those little holes, Grimes.
Yep.
Hillers, what do you think?
Filling little holes. The Danny Grimes story.
With the dad dicks filling little holes.
Oh my god! You know, it was barely subtext as it was, and then you went and forced it into super text, and now
we might have to bleep that.
Let's just restart this whole thing. No, I think
it's because dad dicks are bigger, right?
Oh my god! So
just in case the subtext was missed on people, that's why.
Similar to prior years, this is a wide receiver show. And it is a truly shocking and impressive wide receiver roster that he's got here, and it's even got some depths. And if you're a Zay Flowers guy, then great. And you know all that. But my pre-week one, my rubric for is this team a team truly to be feared is what's the starting lineup look like? And this starting lineup has extremely scary wide receivers, but not really extremely scary necessarily in other places. I don't know what to think of Pat Firemouth. You know, and I don't think his roster of RB2s here is particularly scary or devastating. Do some of them have some potential for later in the season? Sure they do. Zamir White, Tyjae Spears, these are guys that can mature and become much better. But for right now, week one, it could be a tough slog. He's got to hang in there long enough. Thankfully, he's in one of the easier divisions, so he might be able to do it. But not bad, but kind of middle of the pack, maybe lower end, middle of the pack for me as a team.
Yeah, I got him in the. He came in fourth in my preseason power rankings that I do here, but yeah, best receivers, running backs, kind of middle of the road, struggling at tight end. But
fourth is still wild card one, right?
Well, we'll see what my predictions are at the end. Because we don't know. Yeah, we'll see. So yeah, I think it was a good draft. I mean, the biggest no-brainer was who was going to lead that draft with Jaden Daniels. I think we all knew it was going to be Grimes. I'm not sure what he would have paid.
He only went for $11. The fact that Grimes only paid $11 for him is kind of.
Well, that just means someone else wasn't willing to pay $12.
Yeah. I mean, he might have gone up to 20 for him. You know, who knows how much he would have paid.
$1,000.
And by the end of it, if he stays healthy, he could be worth that. I mean, the guy can run. You know, those running quarterbacks. But yeah, overall, great team. Had a great base to start with, and picked up a game potential. Cheat code quarterback with the running. Little struggle at tight end, but got some depth in the receiving and running back core too. So yeah, good draft by Grimes. Next up, the Ducks. Hiller's favorite team.
I do like what he did this year, though. I mean...
So he came in, he kept C.J. Stroud, Jahmyr Gibbs, Tony Pollard, Tank Dell, and Michael Pittman. Ended up drafting George Kittle at tight end for 10. He got Javonte Williams, 18, Xavier Worthy, 17, Rome Odunze, 15, Blake Corum for 12, and then some kind of end-of-the-draft fillers. We'll start with you then, Hillers. What would you like about it?
This is a team that, as you know, I've thought that's been in unending free fall for many years right now, and he's doing the right kind of things to try to fix your team. I've never seen a team with so many rookie wide receivers on it, and I love it. I think he's like, you know what? What if it was all lottery tickets? And then one of them will pay off, and then I will slowly become more good. I believe that's true. I think he's going to get there. And I don't think that this is necessarily the year where he's going to light up the boards, but I definitely see potential with guys like Blake Corum or Rome Odunze or Xavier Worthy to be next year's hey, look at all the cheap decent talent on this team that's just coming into their own. So I think he made the right moves for the draft. Does that mean I think he's going to be successful this season? Maybe not compared to competition, but he was making smart choices, which you got to applaud.
Nick?
I mean, I think that Dez is definitely on the. If it's not this year, it's definitely next year. Like he is definitely on the with a draft like this, where you're able to get the value, young talent at the value that he got them. If it's not this year, and if all he needs is like one or two of these guys to hit. He needs one of these guys to hit, right? Like the people that he's kept are already solid. Like, I mean, Gibbs isn't going to be a keeper necessarily. Pollard's not going to be a keeper. But, I mean, if Dell and Pittman, between Dell, Pittman,
Blake Corum,
I think that Dez has enough rookie talent right now, a young talent at a cheap cost, that if it's not this year, they just need to do good enough to be able to keep going.
He could hardly have had more.
Like their home run. There are definitely home run swings at this point. It's not the home run swings, but they are definitely the. Hear me out though. What if they're good players?
Yeah,
and he has them at a good value. He has them at a good value where Dez could be that team right now. Where in 2025 and beyond, like he's that guy because he has a lot of talent at a good price.
I feel like every draft we get to the same point with Dez where we're like halfway through and like he doesn't spend money on the big ticket players, right? He never does, and we get halfway through and he's like, man, I can't spend the money. I can't pull the trigger to spend the money on these guys. He's like, because he doesn't, and so that's kind of how you end up with a lot of guys in the $18 to $6 range, right? Which nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. Maybe one of those pops or whatever, but at some point you do kind of have to send it on a player, and right. He did. He's got Gibbs, so that's kind of that can be a flagship player.
He traded for him. Yeah. He traded for Gibbs.
This is
he had
the
ETN
foundation of the dynasty, or a massive.
It could be.
Bust.
It could be. He's got 6 rookies, and 5 of them are wide receivers, which is wild.
Love it.
Wait, is that right? 1, 2, 3,
4 wide
receivers. Sorry, yeah. So 6 rookies, 4 of them are wide receivers. So, yeah, I mean it's a solid team. He's going to need these rookies to pay off again because he's got Gibbs, but you're looking for those guys who can get you those 25-point weeks, those 30-point weeks, right? That's kind of what you need to win these things, and maybe he's got them. I don't know, but he is building. I mean, having those rookies on there's something nice about that. To where even if depending on how the season goes, maybe you can trade them if you're competitive halfway through the year. Maybe you can trade them just to a seller, and they can build too. So it gives you some flexibility.
One final note on Wounded Duck: these rookies haven't had a chance to get hurt. The Hear Me Outs would be a great team name.
Yeah, I actually think that's a fantastic division name. Is the What If They're Good?
Yeah.
I think every year the thing that pre-draft, whatever we think is the worst division should be named. But what if they're good?
What if they're good?
And that way,
all right, Hiller's normal year next.
No normal.
Mara, why don't you start us off?
So regular.
Gotta find him on my sheet here. Hiller's kept Devon Achane, Zeke Elliott, George Pickens, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Sam Laporta. His big draft picks were Bijan at 61, Chase Brown at 16. Let's see, his quarterback Aaron Rodgers at 5. He also had Dak at 5. Brock Bowers. Did I say Brock? Brock Bowers at 10. Zach Moss at 16. Lad McConkey.
The Bengals backfield for 32.
At 10. Yeah, so Hillers had a lot of money to throw around, and he.
How much money?
I know you were planning on throwing it around early, Hillers, and you did. I mean, you came in swinging. Going after Bijan was the first pick. $61 gone. Boom. Brought you kind of back in line with the rest of us at that point. And then, but then you were still spending. You were bidding up, guys. Overall, I mean, yeah, I think it's a good draft. I mean, you got maybe the best player in the draft, which is always nice, in Bijan Robinson. Locked up some running back depth. Nick mentioned that Cincinnati backfield could be good. I don't get. I talked to you about this a little bit. When you keep Sam Laporta for 4, I don't get spending $10 on Brock Bowers behind him. But maybe he's a trade piece. Who knows what happens down the road with that. And obviously you're a little weak at quarterback. But you've got a really strong team. I think I've got you. You're second in my power rankings right now. actually.
Sick.
So
amazing. That seems like a doom sentence to me.
Yeah, I don't know if, we'll see what that means.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, and if it weren't for I weirdly have you with bad wide receivers.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, because after Amon-Ra, who's amazing, it kind of gets a little dicey.
Pickens is a long way down from Amon-Ra.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of where I had you, Nick.
Yeah.
I still want to go on record saying that this year's draft was the most. I'm not going to say that the draft pool was bad because I don't think that the pool of players available was bad. I just had no concept of what the cost of what those guys were going to go for. Using Hillers as our example right now because he had the most money coming into the draft. Like my pre-draft, like before I traded AJ Brown, my top 3 wide receivers that were going to be available were AJ Brown, Marvin Harrison, and Drake London. Those were the top 3 wide receivers going into the draft that I thought were going to be available.
Insane.
And that's and then you took away AJ Brown from us by making that trade.
Yeah, and that took away AJ Brown. But like when those are like and then Bijan was the number 1 running back. Like it was Bijan, AJ Brown, a rookie who hasn't taken a single NFL snap, Drake London. Those were the top 4 players that what I presume were going to come into the draft. So when I look at Hiller's team, knowing that he was going to have the most money going into the draft, I had no idea what that necessarily meant because sure, he could throw his money around, but what was he going to buy and what was the quality of players that he was going to do? So having the most money coming into this draft meant you were going to get Bijan, you were going to get Saquon, and that was it. And I think that knowing that you had the most money and with a little bit of kind of like finesse in what you were doing, you could have walked away in this draft with Bijan, with Saquon, and then just like filled in your roster with the rest. So knowing that you could have had the most money, I feel like you kind of squandered it. I feel like you squandered it and you just got caught up in the moment. And that you got Saquon for about $10 cheaper than, or you got Bijan for about $10 cheaper than what you should have gone for. I bowed out because I was like, I'm going to pay 65 for him. I was going to pay 65 for him, but I bowed out. I should have stuck into
no, you weren't.
And been like, if I'm getting it.
You provably
no,
weren't.
I mathematically proved my own, my plan A was to get Bijan for 65, and I bowed out and let you get him for 61. I was like, I should have at least gone to 65.
That happens on the first player. On that first big player, a lot of times they come at a little cheaper than you think because people don't want to spend all their money right away.
Their entire budget on the first pick. Yeah. So, I did. I definitely wanted to do that.
I think that you walking in, I actually don't like your draft for the sole purpose of you had the most money and you kind of walked away with the most lackluster results.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Opinions can differ. For me, this is a team where I was trying to focus on that starting 5, and I think it's a strong starting 5. Could it use some filling in a couple places? Yes. Do I fully intend to work the waiver wire and trades to try to get that back end shored up a little bit? Yeah, sure I do. And I hope some of these guys pan out. It's hard for me to not go for potential. I was glad I was able to get the best player I thought that was available in the draft. That was the whole purpose of having cheap keepers. Team has a chance. Yeah, it's got a puncher's chance. Our division is an unceasing nightmare. So I'm trying to keep my expectations reasonable and make good choices and just not go on if I can just keep my trades and my pickups normal. I do feel if I can just keep the normal year going. Normal year made it through the draft. That's a big hurdle for me, and I was proud of it. So, we'll see how we do. I think I'm better than most of the teams in the league. I also think it probably won't matter coming out of my division. So, I think Roscoe and Merrill are going to hand me my ass on a platter, a special ass plate that I can have 4 times a year.
We'll see.
You are still one of the better teams.
If HN stays healthy and is HN of last year, that's huge for you. Obviously, that with Bijan is, and then Amon-Ra. I mean, that's a scary.
You know how I love the running backs. It's a running back team. It's a Hiller's
team. Laporta, you're always coming in with a tight end advantage, pretty much with Laporta too, which is nice. So
yeah.
All right, next team, Iron Pirates, Miscreant Crew. Are we back to that?
We're back to that
Nice.
because we are back to our roots. We are back to our roots.
Classic. It's
Back
Nick
to
classic.
our roots. Love that. Wait, crap. Where's your draft?
Oh, we don't need to pull that up. We can just say it's bad.
we don't need to hash
All
over
right.
We
Nick,
don't need to talk about this. Can we just go to the
ancient
next team?
history. Can we all agree?
Nick, you came in keeping Kyler, James Conner, a little Arizona stack there, Alvin Kamara,
Back.
and Christian Kirk. Your big picks were Drake.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Oh, that's right. You
Nico
thought
Collins
you
is
kept
like that.
Yeah, you
I
kept
did
Nico
not keep
Collins.
Christian
I'm
Kirk.
sorry. Yeah, there was a little confusion there. Sorry.
What?
Sorry to open that wound up again. But
That's fine.
yeah, so Nico Collins. So then your big buys were Christian Kirk at 22, Drake London at 32, Aaron Jones at 30, and then kind of some fillers down the stretch. You picked up Njoku as tight end for 6, Hopkins for 7, DeAndre Hopkins for 7. You got Chubb for 6, some lottery tickets down there. Justin Fields, kind of like that. Hillers, what'd you think of Nick's draft?
Understood it. I think the end result is something that is, if it's gonna win, it's because he's got a lot of depth, and when people get hurt early or mid-season, he's got one of those teams where it's like next guy up is not a total disaster. I'm seeing a lot of guys that I used to have on my team, so I can't say that I hate guys like Collins or Njoku or Kirk because I had them before. Didn't pay that much for them, but whatever. It's a good team. It's a team where if you look at that top 5 rubric, except for I'm gonna say running back, which could be a black hole that just drags this whole team down. Like James Conner, I feel like is a solid guy, but he's not known for super high ceilings. And the rest of these, I feel like I don't know.
I started him.
So
I think wasn't Kamar like RB3 once he came back last year from the time he came back?
well,
again
and the point is, it's like it's so much of this hinges on one or two guys that in the running back place and not in other parts of the team. So if things go bad at running back for Nick, I think this team is in big trouble. If they go really good at running back, I think this is a team that would surprise people and be like a wild card contender. So
which basically means if they stay healthy.
Yeah, I respect spreading the value around. I think that's a viable strategy, and this is a team that represents that strategy. So.
Yeah, Nick, I had you 6th in my power rankings. Kind of right in the middle there. Could go either way. Question for you. Did you try and deal either Lamar or Kyler in the offseason?
Yeah, I tried to do Lamar a lot, and like no one was just going to pay that much for Lamar, and I understood that.
And then they ended up paying
and
that
the
draft
value
anyway.
that and what I could get for Kyler, I would get an offer for Kyler, and then I would just keep looking at it, and it's like, and everything I would read is like, yeah, but he could be like this could be the year for Kyler, like this, and it could always be the year for anyone, right? But I was like, $4 though, I just have the quarterback position locked up, like for $4.
I think
which is
you
what
kept.
I do, right?
I think
like,
you kept the right one.
$4 quarterback.
I guess it is
like,
hard.
I find a quarterback for $4 and for less than $4 in the draft, and I'm done with it. So the fact that I could find a $4 quarterback that was Lamar 0.5, I was like, well, would I rather have Lamar for 22, or
you mean one half of Lamar
plus 8? To have a little lesser Lamar plus $18 in the draft.
Lamar the left.
And in hindsight, would I have said fuck it, I'm just going to keep Lamar and just I would rather go in with less money? Yeah, I probably should have done that in hindsight.
Yeah, I think you made the right move there. I was just wondering if we were sending some deals out.
Who wants a quarterback? Who wants a quarterback?
And I kind of ran into that with Hurts also. It's kind of the same thing. I will say you've got the best running back core 2020 has ever seen. They were so good in 2020.
My wide receivers 2020 pretty good too.
Also wide receivers, yeah. I mean, you got you're running it back with the old guys again, pretty much.
And my quarterback, if I had Justin Fields in 2020, my team for 2020.
Yeah, dude. Even Kyler, So yeah, I don't know. I mean, you picked up, your big pick was Drake London and Aaron Jones. I like those. Aaron Jones is always, can he stay healthy? But when he's healthy, he's good. I mean, there's no doubt. There's no debate on that.
And he could be a workhorse. That's hard to come by. It's possible.
Yeah,
right?
You kind of need Nico to be the guy in Houston, which most people think he will be.
He's a good receiver.
So,
a lot of the hate on Collins is preseason hype rather than last season's numbers.
I don't think there's a lot of hate on Collins. I think most people are in on him. It's just there's just questions with Diggs coming in there, like who's going to be. What does that mean for the rest of them? So yeah, Nick, I know you hated your draft and it didn't go exactly as you planned, but I mean you got some guys. You got.
I know I hate my draft. Just that I'm coming off of 3 years of having Eckler, AJ Brown, James Conner, Travis Kelce. Like that was my team for the past 5 years. Yeah. And now that's not my team. So I'm kind of starting over. And it was men.
Yeah. Well, the drop from Kelce to Njoku is going to be that's going to hurt
devastating.
You. That's going to burn a little bit. But at some point, you can't keep the guy for $35. So I think you made the right move throwing him back. So anyway, yeah. All right. Next team is.
All right, guys.
Sorry. Did you want to talk more, Nick? What was did you have a
no? Of course not. No, Jesus Christ! No, I don't want to talk about my team. I want to talk about everyone else.
All right. Cyborg Tony Romo is our next team here, also known as Fantasy Jets. And let's see, where is he?
In my fantasy, the Jets are good. And that team is named Cyborg Tony Romo.
Roscoe came in keeping Breece Hall, Kyren Williams. Breece Hall, Kyren Williams, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, okay, go on, and Evan Ingram. Pretty solid keepers, but that did not leave him with a ton
second
of money.
Best keepers, maybe best keepers.
Yeah, awesome. did not leave him with much money, unfortunately.
Nope.
Picked up Jordan Love at quarterback for 7, Jaylen Warren at 21, Chris Godwin at 20, Dontavian Wicks at 11, and then a couple fillers towards the end. Nick, what'd you think of Roscoe's draft?
I just didn't.
Tell us more.
Yeah, I know, right? His team was so good, right? Again, this is an example of a team that's trying to fill in and just ride the wave of whatever was available in the draft. I don't think you need 2 Green Bay wide receivers, even though you spent $14 on them. That was just a waste of a roster spot to have Dobbs and Wicks.
Yeah, but I could kind of see that to where
right,
which one
of them is going to be good.
Maybe one of them pops, and then you can just kind of.
He won the Chris Godwin lottery, which I feel is a thing that we do every year. Somehow Chris Godwin's always a receiver that's thrown back, and
Mr. Forgettable.
Everyone bids on him.
He wasn't very good last year.
I don't
know. The Hillers?
I think he went in with a very specific idea of who he wanted with his money, and then he got probably most of those guys. I was enviable of his draft strategy. I think, for already having Garrett Wilson and Justin Jefferson, picking up 2 of the Green Bay young, sort of promising wide receivers to see which one becomes the new, Devontae Adams, if that's to be a thing in Green Bay this year, is a great idea. And he got a lot of guys that I were seeing on lists of hey, these are guys that are undervalued, that are sleeper picks that have high ceilings, vice where they're going in drafts, and picking up guys Jaylen Warren was a little expensive considering that people have been saying Jaylen Warren's going to be a thing for 2 years under Najee Harris, and he hasn't quite managed. I love Jaylen Warren. $21 is a little bit rich. Yeah, but Jaleel McLaughlin at $1, great, amazing, and he didn't need much in terms of depth to back up what was already one of the best starting fives.
All he needed was depth, really.
Yeah, he just needed and what he went with was cheap, high ceiling, good potential. Depth, which it could be trade pieces if they pan out, or could make this team, that unbeatable starting 5. So I think he knew exactly what he wanted, and he got them. Great draft strategy, a draft for Bosco this year. Well done.
Yeah, the guy drove 6 hours to draft Jaylen Warren and Chris Godwin. Basically, it's kind of tough because he's
top notch.
Yeah, but did you see his guns?
I know he just and to show his guns, of course.
Did you see him?
Wow.
It was an hour and a half in before he drafted his first player, right? It was crazy.
That was hilarious.
And he just didn't have money. When you've got this caliber of keepers, you don't have a ton of money to go with. And this team's going to hinge on if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy and the Jets' offense is actually good. If it is, then Breece Hall
and whether or not Justin Jefferson can get the ball.
Yeah, I think he will. He got it last year after Cousins went down. It wasn't as good, but it was still really good. So, but if Rodgers is healthy and the Jets actually score this year, Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson are going to be big jumps up, and this team's going to be scary. I've got Roscoe at third in my power rankings. So again, doesn't mean anything, but yeah. And then he got those two Packers. Then he got Jordan Love as well, so he's got a little bit of a stack there. If Wicks turns out to be take that next step, or Dobbs catches those touchdowns again this year, I don't know, that helps him too. So
if as the former number one fan of Aaron Rodgers and a guy with Aaron Rodgers on my team this year, no one wants Aaron Rodgers to get hurt in the first 5 plays more than I do this season, because I think it will mean that I have a chance at a wild card out of my division.
Yeah, right. So that's Roscoe's team, I guess. Slod is the next team.
Slod, are you in there, Slod? You have to.
You have to declare yourself if we call your name.
That's the rule. Slod came in, keeping Josh Allen, Jerome Ford, Puka Nacua, Rashee Rice, and Dalton Kincaid. Pretty solid start there. Big picks were Saquon for 46, Najee for 25, Stephon Diggs for 16, Keenan Allen for 15, and Keon Coleman for 15. Hillers, what did you think of Slod's draft?
He was already a reasonably solid team last year. I think this represents a decent improvement for him. Like, given the players that were available to us and the amount of money that he had to spend, I don't hate really too many people on this roster. Like, whoever, Najee Harris, I hate a little, but it's not unovercomable. His top starting 5 is I think very solid. A lot of people are super high on Kincaid this year, which tight end is one of those positions where if you can get any kind of positional advantage, that's a benefit to you. He's in a division where I think it's possible to come out on the top of a division with just slightly over a 500 record, and he's got some of the top players. He's riding high off the moxie of taking Puka Nacua first week last season at $30 or something like that. Well done. That turned out to be a value. If he'd have been available at this year's draft, God knows what he would have gone for. So again, this is another team where could they use some more running back depth? Sure. Is this a team that I think can win and have the sort of depth and consistency that you need to be a team that just does a little bit better than 500 and comes out of his division on top? Yeah, I think he could get there. This is in terms of the total league, high end of middle of the road, not like blowing my doors off or anything, but I like it, and I think he made smart picks with the money that he had. After Bijan went, Saquon was one of the top ones left, and he got him at $46. So he did what he needed to do with his biggest holes. So what can you ask of a person other than that?
Nick?
I'll put this team up head-to-head against any of the top 4 teams in the league.
On any given week or all the time?
I mean, I think with the exception of... All right, so, I mean, spoiler alert, with the exception of, like, Merrill's team, I would put this team against any of the other of 2 through 4 at any given point in the week.
Yeah.
Like, I think this team
Josh Allen can do for you.
This team is, I mean, if this team is healthy and you can put out his starting lineup every week, this team is going to be hard to beat. This team is super competitive. This is one of the better starting lineups in the league. That's all I'm gonna say. Like I'm sorry, this is one of those deals where
team.
The less I have to say, the better. Like, but seriously, this is actually one of the best top to bottom starting lineups in the league.
Yeah, a couple things he did here. I mean, I'm 5th in the power rankings, by the way. I mean, a lot of that is the fact he's got Josh Allen, the best quarterback in the league. Let's not forget that. I mean,
people do sleep.
24 points a week, just boom, out of your quarterback position.
That's a great place to start.
Pretty good place to start, right? So, Jerome Ford looks like a great start now with Chubb out. But he's got Dalton Kincaid with Josh Allen. And then he picked up Keon Coleman down there too. So like he's kind of going in on the Bills like this, like who's going to be Josh Allen's guy? And let me take a shot on it and see. And that could be nice. I love the Diggs pick for 16. I think he's probably over the hill. Maybe he's done. I don't know. But $16 if it's Diggs right. From like what Diggs was a year and a half ago, Like
Yeah.
that's an amazing price. And then I think Saquon for 46 is one of the best buys of the draft, low key.
Yeah.
I thought he'd go for like
Was.
55 to 60, honestly.
Diggs,
So,
and,
I'm just
Diggs and
below
Allen are the
Robinson.
stack of like old guys that every year people are like, this is the year they're done for, and then midway through the season you're like, why did we think they'd be bad? They've been good for 20 years. They're good again. Like both of those guys, it happens every year. We're kicking ourselves in like week 5 or 6.
well, yeah, I mean, Allen's just a stud. He's just a freaking horse, dude. And then he's got the fillers down here, man.
They were
with-
within 6 points of each other on points scored last season. Like they're both really
Oh,
good.
you're talking about Keenan Allen? I thought you meant Josh Allen. I got you. Yeah, yeah.
No, yeah,
He's got many Allens on his team.
so many Allens.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right though. Keenan Allen, same thing. So, yeah, I'm with you, Nick. I think it was a good draft. I think he got a ceiling guy with Saquon, who could be kind of that. That flagship guy for him this year, maybe. Who knows? And then he's got Puka and Rashee Rice, who looks better and better every week. Especially now that they've announced that they're not going to suspend him this year, which is like okay.
Because of course
Wait
not.
till next
Why would they?
year.
Because of the Chiefs. I know. I mean, if we're talking about solely who had the best draft, Slad's up there for the best draft.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about this team. It's who walked out with the best team after the draft, just to keep Burgess admitted. And it's Larf. Like Larf definitely has one of the better teams.
I think so. All right, Wingay next. Andy came in keeping Anthony Richardson, Josh Jacobs,
Best draft. Let's just go on.
AJ Brown, Chris Olave, and Trey McBride. He picked up T. Higgins for 16, Calvin Ridley for 25, DK Metcalf for 30, and Gus Edwards for 9 as his RB2. Nick, what'd you think of Andy's draft?
It's very Andy. Like this is his team that he had last year.
I know.
Like this is the team he had last year. He spent $30 to pick up another. He spent what $30 to get DK, $25 to get Ridley. He spent $55 to get the same player again twice. Like the same tier player. I mean,
yeah.
You
whatever. It's a
like
draft.
the heart wants what it wants.
It's funny and we kind of talked about this during the draft, how people tend to, even if the guys they don't keep, they still go back out and get him. They're like, I want him back. That's my guy.
I love him.
Yeah, I'm still going back to get him. And it's like, God, we get attached to these players for some stupid reason.
Yeah. So yeah, we can talk about this later. How
I don't see how you come out with this as number 1 draft, though. I really don't.
I think he's joking because we say that about Andy every year. I think that was a joke.
Okay. Oh, now I understand. Thank you for explaining it to me. That'll make it funnier for the listeners.
So
I have to have that explained. The team is fine. It has a lot of guys that he paid a lot of money for that every year people are like, these could be the number 1 players, and like some years they do better, some years they do worse. They rarely are. All I say is he better hope Josh Jacobs blows the doors off this year, because if he doesn't, it could be kind of a slog. Because the problem is, you've got 6 really good wide receivers. Bad news, you can't start 6 wide receivers.
Really good, really good.
I mean, consistently good.
Four really good ones.
Yeah, high floors. But you can only start 3 of them.
5 really good ones he's got.
And Trey McBride represents some opportunity for him to improve on opposition.
Yeah, Trey McBride.
But it's not a slam dunk. Anthony Richardson represents a chance to improve on opposition, but it's not a slam dunk. And so it's like, this is one of those teams where it's like by week 4 we could be saying, "Wow, this team is way scarier than we thought," or we could be saying, "What a bold of old clunkers," and they seem almost equally plausible at this point, based on just like preseason hype. So, we'll see, but closer to the top of the league than to the bottom for me, because I think this is another of those teams that went to like spread out the value. Put your money in a lot of places and have some depth and have some capability. But I don't love the running backs. I feel like he's going to end up in another situation where he's like riding with 2 and desperately trying to trade for a 3rd.
So who's his 3rd running back? It's Ray Davis, Antonio Gibson. Like these.
My God!
I mean, who's his 2nd running back?
Gus Edwards is his 2nd.
Gus Edwards.
And
again, number 2, Gus Edwards.
So I feel like Andy overcorrected. I feel like Andy's whole thing was like, after last year, he was like, I'm done paying for running backs. I'm just done. I'm not paying for running back. And now it's like, Well, I should pay a little for it.
You can be done.
You're
They'll be done with
exactly
you,
right
too.
about his team, though, because like looking at his keepers all offseason, he's like, I don't know who to keep. I have so many receivers at good values. I don't know who to keep. And sure enough, he just gets a ton of receivers again in the draft, and it's like, but I have Andy at the
But is it a ton
seven.
of receivers, or is it the same? It's the same receiver 5 times.
It's
Yeah, that's kind of what it was, and that's what it was in
Wow.
the offseason too. Yeah.
insight so far of the podcast. This is
Yeah.
the same receiver.
Well, no, I mean,
I-
that's the question, right?
No,
Is that you
I
can say
wasn't.
that
I
he
wasn't
has a lot
making
of great
fun of
guys,
you
but
this
it's like
time.
you can start any one of them at any week and be like, yeah, I'm expecting 20 points.
Yeah.
I out of these 6 guys, like I'm expecting 20 points out of any of these guys. So
Well, and so look, he can flip. Ideally, he's trying to flip one of these for a running back at some point, and then with DK Metcalf or something for a running back. I don't
Sure.
know. It's hard. It's hard to get running backs from people because people just can't roster a ton of them. But
Shop's always open, Andy.
yeah, I had Andy at 7th in my power rankings. A lot of that is because he's got the worst running backs in the league based on what just comparison to the others. So that's kind of what holds him back. If he even had middle of the road running backs, this team would be this team would be
strong
a
team,
top
yeah.
3 or 4 team, I think. But he knew it in the draft. He was like, we got to that point. Is we're like, wait a minute, he doesn't have a second running back yet, and there's like none left.
he's also banking on Anthony Richards being that guy.
He is, but you can find, you can go and pick up a guy off waivers that can play okay, like Kirk Cousins or something. If Richardson's hurt,
Gino's on the waivers right now.
Yeah,
He's-
there's guys. Richardson's a ceiling guy, and it could be a league winner if he stays healthy and gets you those 25 points.
And
a
is
week
the
or whatever.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
All
right. Next team,
TDJ.
TDJ.
Rounding out the most horrific division in league history. We have
TDJ kept Patrick Mahomes, Isaiah Pacheco, Jonathan Taylor, Deebo Samuel, and Mike Evans. His big picks were Travis Kelce at $28. Sorry about that, Nick. Brandon Ayuk at $26 to round out that San Francisco receiving core. Brian Thomas Jr. at $12, and then the typical dollar days down the rest of the way for Pritchard. What'd you think about this one here? I don't know who we started with last time. So Nick, what'd you think?
I mean, he's banking a lot on the 49ers and the Chiefs, which are good teams to bank on, but
if you're gonna.
I mean, but you're also banking on the fact like there's a lot of mouths to feed in all those offenses. So it's like, I don't know. We say this every year about Pritchard, and Pritchard, you always seem to impress us. So whatever, but like, I don't think we ever really walk out of the draft thinking that we like your draft. Yet somehow you find a way to be competitive. So luckily, you're a better non-draft owner than you are a draft owner. So I don't know. I'm not loving your team just solely for the fact that you put so much stock in those two teams, especially because even as soon as you got out, you were like, well, fuck. And then we kind of called you on the fact that you was the 49ers again. You were like, well, yeah, I have everything for them. It was just funny.
No.
Yeah, Hillers?
I read this very differently. Let's look at my starting 5 rubric. Okay, we've got Mahomes, Pacheco, Taylor, whichever 49ers wide receiver is the better one. I think that there's a lot of good reason to believe that Brian Thomas Jr. can do really well. People kind of sleep on Jacksonville. Mike Evans is always has it like way higher floor than people.
1,000 yards written down.
Yeah,
it's
just it's slam. And then to now have add Kelce to that, I think, wow, this is a really dangerous starting 5 team. And I understand. I must have been killing him to pay $50 to get 2 Niners wide receivers. But whichever one is going to be the one to have, he's going to want them. And you can start either one pretty much every weekend. And if one gets hurt, ooh, you got a new number 1 receiver on your team.
But who are you starting number 1? Who are you starting week 1?
Flip a coin.
Debo. I think Debo's.
Yeah, flip a coin. Yeah, I mean, but like starting 5 for this team, great. And then there's a few bench spots that I think that they can throw in there. Obviously, injuries can be the death of any of us. If something were to happen to like Mahomes, this team is a lot worse. But that can be said of every team in the league. The starting 5 is impeccable. I think he had a strategy. Probably paid a little bit more than he wanted to for some of these guys. Probably like usual, the value is going to come from a place that we are not expecting, like Dameon Pierce or like Brian Thomas Jr. Or Khalil Herbert or somebody. But I think he did a great job. I think the team is going to be dangerous and scary and bad to play on any given week.
Look, the guy's, made the playoffs like 11 of his 16 seasons in the league. I mean, he's clearly knows what he's doing.
He knows his business.
He comes in, he picks players, and when he wants someone, he just gets them. He doesn't care what it costs. And I think all of us can take a little lesson from that, because how many of us get, halfway through the draft and like, God, I wish I spent $3 more on, Saquon instead of having to spend $3 more on, I don't know, Marquise Brown.
Yeah, a guy five positions down.
Yeah,
right?
like, and
Bro, what's wrong with Marquise Brown?
he's just who I happen to look at. I don't know.
He's
Romeo
bad.
Dobbs, whatever you want to say.
Thing.
So yeah, there's something said for that. I think if you look at Brandon Ayuk in a vacuum for $26, everybody's like, yeah, that's a great value. I think that's, especially now that he's back with the 49ers. But then when you add the fact that he's also got Debo, it's like, yeah, that's kind of, I don't know how that works. So I don't know if that's going to be good or bad, but I think you're right. Like this starting lineup, I mean, I think you do start Ayuk, Debo, and Evans. And then you got your two running backs with Pacheco and Taylor, and then Mahomes and Travis Kelce. I mean,
I don't want to play that.
I don't want to play that either. I got bad news though, Hillers. We got to play it 3 times.
So many times.
So, yeah.
I mean, he's going to have a couple tough bye weeks this season, but, whatever.
I got him at 8th overall. Really
8th?
hurting.
Really?
Jesus.
Wow, savage.
Well, he's hurting on the depth, and his running backs, like, they're good, but when you compare him to everyone else's running back, like, he doesn't have a third running back, really. When you compare him to the other running backs in the league, he's kind of hurting there. So that's why.
Interesting. All right.
But we all had him dead last year, and he, made the playoffs, I think. So, what do we know?
I think we were all reeling from the nuclear explosion of the first $83 player.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of nuclear explosion, how is that mustard working out for you, Hillers?
Blew up in my pocket and ruined a pair of pants and a good bit of my... But you'll be pleased to know there are 2 new jars, not 1, but 2 new jars of Bijan Mustardson on their way to my house right now. So next year's owner will receive their Bijan Mustardson.
That could be your team name next year, Hiller's Mustard Pocket.
I'll take it under advisement.
Yeah, or Exploded Mustard could be a division name or something. I don't know. Well, Pritchard had that thing for a year after he drafted Bijan, gave it to Hillers, and in 12 hours, Hillers exploded the Bijan Mustard.
It was a rough 12 hours.
Wow.
It was full of activity.
It was. Well, so much room for activity. Assassins are our next team. Watson came in keeping Travis Etienne, Ramondre Stevenson, and Jordan Addison. His big picks were Lamar Jackson at 20, Malik Neighbors at 22, Joe Mixon at 37, Deontay Johnson at 14, and then some fillers down. He picked up Kyle Pitts. He's it's his turn on the Kyle Pitts carousel for $9.
This is the year.
So, Hillers, what'd you think of Watson's draft?
All those other years where Kyle Pitts was going to be good were bullshit. This is the one where he truly becomes great. What I was really impressed by is how much reliable value it was added to this team. Now, you could have added almost anything to this team and it would have improved it because it was one of the worst teams in league history. But he made good choices. I think he picked guys and traded for Etienne in the offseason, traded for Vindicator in the offseason, stealing my last crazy trade off of me before the new year began. And I think this is a team that might surprise people with being a team that'll put up between maybe 110 and 120 points sort of week after week and ends up stealing some games off of people that are just falling under the high ceiling until they have find themselves in playoff contention. There's depth at every position. There's some capability at just about every spot here. Starting 5, not the strongest starting 5, but not like a pushover either. So I was pretty impressed, and I think this team is going to surprise some people. Frankly, you couldn't have gotten any worse. So big improvement. Nice job, Watson.
Nick?
Hear me out. What if they're
Best
good?
team in the league.
What if they're good?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, I really think that's kind of like this team's motto is he has Lamar, he has
What if they're not
he has
terrible?
Ramondre. Like, yeah, what if they're not like Addison's like doesn't have to be great for $17.
If
I
he's
think
the
that where
third
he's
receiver,
going to
no way. Yeah.
as a third receiver.
He's a second.
That's the number one receiver.
Oh,
He's his first receiver.
I think. Well, right now probably Deontay, and then I'm thinking he's banking on Nathan being like the new
wide receiver core is. The problem is honestly even as I'm talking right now, who are his wide receivers really scare you?
That's where I was going to come in. I've got him.
Who are his wide receivers that can scare you? And do you honestly? And maybe he is. Maybe Cousins is the answer to unlock Pitts. Maybe that's what. Maybe that's all he needs to be able to get that
new coach. Yeah.
I get that is. But like, even if Pitts does get unlocked, who are his receivers?
Yeah, well, I've got him 11th in my rankings mainly because of wide receivers. He's by far has the worst wide receiver core. You can't start Jordan Addison. I'm sorry, you can't. With Sam Darnold at quarterback,
and Jefferson needing to eat, and Hawkins
and Jefferson's in front of him. Well, Hawkins is not playing, but
and then they're just going to throw, and they're just and because it's not even the rookie wide receiver. Like, who's the quarterback now for Vikings? It's
Sam
the
Darnold.
Jets guy, right?
Sam Darnold. Right?
Yeah, Sam Darnold. Like, it's going to be just.
That's never who you want your quarterback to be.
Yeah, I don't think he can support two receivers in that offense, right? So you're starting Malik Neighbors and Deontay Johnson at receiver, and when you compare that to like Grimes, who's starting Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb,
you're going to get lost.
You compare the quarterbacks of who's throwing to Malik Neighbors and Deontay Johnson, and that gets even scarier. Like, I think those guys are great players, but I listen to this podcast where they talk about they compare it to Arrested Development when you have a receiver with a bad quarterback. It's like where the guy's like, I have the worst fucking attorneys. It's like every time it just sucks on Monday night when you're sitting there with Deontay Johnson and you're praying Bryce Young can somehow miraculously complete an out to Deontay Johnson.
Pass.
It just feels like a miracle every time he catches one.
Adam Thielen was like the number was like a top 10 receiver for so like he can do it.
So maybe he can for sure. But like
not impossible.
Like, are you relying on that to be your number?
It's
like,
just improbable.
How long he needs to stay in that?
But also look at this. With as many people as need running backs, so much trade potential for this team too.
Yeah, but
if they can do it smart.
Why? What is trade potential?
Running backs. People are thirsty for running backs.
Who is he trading away? Who can he trade away at running back?
The Vindicator.
For what?
I found it
a flex. Vindicator is a flex play.
Yeah, is a trade for a number 2 wide
receiver. You gave away Ramondre for free, so like clearly you're not getting much for him. So
you wait. You can get a number 2 wide receiver.
You gave away Ramondre and Addison.
Yeah, this is Hiller's donation team over here.
Help the children, everyone. There are Watsons starving in fantasy leagues all throughout this country, and for pennies a day.
All right, Hitman are next.
I feel like I wasted my load of the what if they're good on a team that probably wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
Nick's wasted load. New team name.
Hitman are next. I kept Jalen Hurts, Christian McCaffrey, Raheem Mostert, and Tyreek Hill. Big draft picks were Cooper Kupp for 28, Christian Watson for 11, Amari Cooper for 17. I also kept Jake Ferguson. Sorry. And
Jake Ferguson.
Let's see. Trey Benson for 11.
Christ.
J.K. Donovan. Some fillers at the end there. Also a 6th running back.
Merrill, in the interest of you won last year, kudos to you. You got a great core. You kept that team together for as much as you could. You're going to try to run it back with that team. You filled in the gaps that you needed. Cooper Kupp was the piece that you needed to kind of you bought the best available player that you could. I mean, you can roster bait all you want, and this is the best team. This is still the number 1 team. You're still the team to beat next year.
Obviously assuming health, right? So these guys are getting old.
Yeah, and that Raheem Mostert remains the guy.
He doesn't need Raheem Mostert to do for what he asked for Raheem Mostert. He doesn't need to do.
It would sure help.
He could throw Raheem Mostert back week 1 and be like, whatever it was.
Will you prove Nick right, Merrill, and throw Raheem Mostert back on week 1?
I will not.
Well, I'm saying it was $11.
I sure would like it if you did.
But it's not. But you know what I'm saying is that it's roster fodder. It's whatever.
Yeah, but again, we look at starting top 5. He barely had to draft it all because he had one of the most stellar top 5 player rosters in league history. So he barely needed to draft. I I wasn't like super amazed with the guys that he got, but I don't want to be the one to bet against Cooper Kupp. Trey Benson could become a thing. He didn't need much. I don't think he got loads, but it's still easily a top 3 team in the league. So good job, I guess.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp and Amari Cooper were kind of the big picks, right? So
yeah.
That's all you need. And congrats, you got that.
And you know what? Watch Christian Watson end up being the after all Roscoe did to try to get the next hot thing on the Packers. It could easily be him too.
Need him to stay healthy, and then he's good when he's healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, bro. Roscoe did I'm gonna bet the field against Christian Watson.
Yeah.
And Reynolds gonna be like, all right, well, I'll pick up Watson.
Well, it feels like all the past 2-3 years, even everyone's like Christian Watson. He's amazing. He's so good. He's amazing. And like this is the first year where people are just like, we're tired of him. And it's
Jontavian Wicks is the new Christian.
He's like 24 years old, and everybody's like, nah, we're done with him. And it's like, well,
what a decrepit.
No, I agree. I think everyone's
just
been saying Christian Watson is the guy. It's just that you want a piece of the Green Bay. You wanted Wicks. Everyone, you should have walked away your draft with Wicks, Dobbs, or Watson. Like on your team.
Reed. Jayden Reed also.
Or Reed. Like if you could walk away, if 4 teams walked away with one of those guys, there are 4 teams that could have walked away with the number 1 wide receiver in Green Bay.
2 teams walked away with all of them, and as a Packers fan, it's devastating that they're both in my division.
Well, and what's unfortunately probably going to turn out that we're like they all just eat into each other's value, and like they don't.
It could be all of them are fine, right? They could be. It could be 4.
All right, enough about your team, Merrill.
We're talking about the Packers.
It's an excellent.
No, we're talking about your team.
Your team is very good.
We talk about you enough.
Okay.
Congratulations, by the way. 20 years. Slaving away in the darkness, you finally got.
It can finally come out now. Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna give you your one flower and expect you to shut up forever.
That's very cool of you. Not gonna happen. Chiefs is our next team. He came in keeping Rachaad White, Devonta Smith, and DeAndre Swift. His big picks were Derrick Henry at 45, who he had, Marvin Harrison at 32, Austin Eckler at 16. Jayden Reed at 6, which that seems like a really good value.
He could be the guy in Green Bay.
He could be. Have we talked about the Packers?
And which of their 8 receivers are going to be the good one?
All right, Hillers, what do you think of Tyler / Ester's team?
Pretty solid. Let's apply the top 5 rubric. Don't hate any of it. Herbert and Henry and White with guy like Eckler or Swift either could be fine as a flex. I understand that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the greatest wide receiver that history has ever seen, so that's a plus. Nice to have that. $32 for a rookie wide receiver is something that I will never draft, but hey, love the swings. And
hear me out.
It is hard to know.
What if he's good?
Where's the number 1 wide receiver here? Like these all seem like number 2 wide receivers to me. A connoisseur of number 2 wide receivers. I'm not seeing like that top 12 guy that's making you strong in that area. So I think he's really going to have to hope that running backs that I think are already maybe at their cap actually exceed that in order to be successful. So I don't love this team. But I do think that they're doing better than roughly half the league at starting 5. And it's going to depend on how he works the waiver wire and how he works the trade market to see if he can be that team that's like in the playoffs and contending for a title again. I would be surprised if that happened, but I was surprised the first time. So,
Nick,
no more than me. It's a very Esteric team, right? Like nothing about this team impresses me, but it'll kind of work out for them because even applying the top 5 rule, like I have zero faith in Justin Herbert this year because I don't think that the Chargers have anyone that can catch the ball this year.
Lad McConkey, the most Scottish receiver available.
Like Rachaad White maybe is his number 1, but like I don't want Rachaad White to be my number 1 running back. Like I don't know.
Derrick Henry's his number 1 running back.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want Derrick Henry to be my number one running back this year. I don't want to rely on Derrick Henry being. I don't want to. I don't want to know that Derrick Henry is my number one this year. Like I just don't. Given the Ravens' offense and the fact that Lamar is going to carry, I don't know.
He doesn't do all the
I don't know.
running.
This is in the bottom half. Honestly, like the TLDR is that this is in the bottom half. I don't know where they are. They're in the 7-8 range.
They're 12th.
Like
they're 12th is where they are. This is the worst team.
Whoa.
In my
Hot
rankings.
takes. Flaming hot takes.
I think.
no, you're not wrong.
This is.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't like the shaft. But a lot of
savage
reasons.
disrespect.
He's the worst. He's the worst at quarterback in the league with Justin Herbert. He's got the worst quarterback in the league. He's got the worst tight end. He doesn't. He's going to be starting Dalton Schultz week 1. He's got the worst tight end in the league.
Ugh.
So he's always at a disadvantage there. His receivers are not great. I mean, Marvin Harrison might be, cat's pajamas.
The greatest
as the kids
receiver
say.
in history.
But again, you're relying on a rookie receiver to be your wide receiver 1, and don't love that. I think Derrick Henry is going to be good this year. I think he could be like this year's Mostert. I think he could end up with 20 touchdowns just from running it in on the goal line. I mean that could be his thing. I mean, I don't know that he's going to get a ton of yards or a ton of work, but I mean, I think you can pencil him in for at least 15 touchdowns.
He's going to pull a Bettis.
Yeah, I think that's going to be. They're going to bring him in just to run people over, and
3 touchdowns, 7 yards.
I'm never been a Devonta Smith guy. He's fine. I think he's a flex maybe or a low end wide receiver 2. And then you look at the bench and it's like, sure, I do think Jaden Reed's good, but we just talked about the Packers, and then there's really not much else. Maybe Josh Palmer tied in with that Chargers offense works. There's just I don't know, man. It's
I don't want anything to do with the Chargers offense.
More question marks and exclamation points on this team.
Yeah, somebody's got to be 12th. But like I said, this is the year where like 12th has been the closest to 1 ever. So it's like it's not like it's a distant 12th, but for me that's just where he ended up.
All right.
And then
you never said who your number 1 was, Meryl. On your power ranking.
It was me.
Well, we haven't talked about Gazebo yet. We still have one more.
Well, there's still time.
There's still Gazebo, but yeah, it was me. Spoiler. But Gazebo is our final team here. And I've got Gazebo right here. Daria kept Brian Robinson, Kenneth Walker, Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle, and Mark Andrews. Pretty good start. Yep. And ended up drafting Joe Burrow at quarterback for 7, DJ Moore for 20, which was another great buy in the draft. I think DJ Moore could return like $30 in value, honestly. Could be wide receiver 1. Jonathan Brooks at 20, same price as DJ Moore, weirdly. JSN at 11, and kind of some fillers after that. Nick, what do you think of Daria's draft?
I think it's fine. I love the pick of Chuba for $4 right off the bat because you know that he was going to be available for the first 4 weeks in the league at least, and he did fine. Like Chuba was the guy that I wanted, but our 5 running back limit definitely hurt that. I don't love DJ Moore, but that's just because I think that there's going to be a lot of mouths to feed in Chicago, and I don't know how that's going to play out right now. I feel like they're going to feed Keenan Allen more than DJ Moore, and Cole Kmet are the big winners. Who Kmet is also a Daria person, so good for her. I don't know. I love the JSN pick. I think the JSN is going to be a huge addition to this team. But coming back to the whole thing about you have a person and you go after them, this team is very much a Daria circa 2023 team.
All right, Hillers.
You're going to be surprised to hear this. I hate this team. I don't like it at all.
I am surprised.
I think the JSN for $11 is a very good pick. Hoping that maybe you can cash in on some melange of Carolina running backs is a stretch, and then to not get a 5th one when that's the case is rough. I think this team is filled with people that we've heard before how they're gonna be good, and it hasn't happened. So I don't understand why this would be the and maybe it is the year where it happens. There's clearly people that believe in them, but for me, if I get burned twice on a player, that kind of tells me where they are, and I think this team is just filled with those kinds of guys, and I don't like it. I think she's going to struggle.
Meryl, before you go, can I make one suggestion thing here?
Sure.
Here's what I'm actually not impressed by is that you knew that Jonathan Brooks was not going to be playing right away, and they're on the IR, and you didn't even make a move. Like Jonathan Brooks is still in the active roster spot. Like you've had these loaded. You haven't even moved him to the IR to try to make a move to free up the running back spot. Like league ownership, come on, get your shit together.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean,
Well, somebody said their waivers were running on the wrong day in
Well-
her defense.
well, it would have been this morning, so it's still.
That's fine. Yeah, and that's true. And also, but that doesn't mean that you can't at least have the person in the right roster spot.
Are they on the IR? Oh, yeah, he is on the IR. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I had Dart at 9th. Again, it's pretty tight in that middle pack from 10th to like 5th. So like they're all kind of the same here. But Burrow. This is the first time Burrow's getting a full preseason, like a normal preseason, which 2 years ago Burrow was amazing. So let's not forget that. And DJ Moore is always like a top 15 receiver. Like as much as we hate him, like he's just always there. And to get that for $20, that's another one of the best buys in
On
the draft.
Chicago though.
He was on Chicago last year. He was great.
Yeah, I guess.
Check the numbers. I mean, and he's getting
286 points is a lot of points.
Theoretically, he has a quarterback upgrade this year. So
Yeah.
no, who knows? But then from there,
again, but
It wouldn't be the first time.
but from
50
there
of
it
those
kind
points
of
came against the Commanders in 1 week, though.
yeah, that's true. From there, it kind of goes off the rails. But it's also previous years too. DJ Moore's never had a good quarterback, whether he was in Carolina or whether he was in Chicago. Like he's never had it. But locking up the Carolina running back room, sure,
That's
fine.
what I like.
Yeah. But other than that, there's kind of a lot of meh on the end of this. And I'd
Maybe
also like to
because I love
say
running backs.
if Chuba Hubbard married Nick Chubb, he'd be Chubba Chubb, which I think is really cool. So
Glad you got a chance to share that.
yeah. So
No,
that's it. All right. Predictions. Do you guys have division winner predictions?
What? What?
That's cool, man.
Rigor? No. Yeah, I do.
Okay. You want me to go first? Well, maybe you guys think about it, or you want to go first? Go ahead, Otis.
Romo, Pirates, and Slod.
Nice. I got Nick winning, Dad Dix, and Hitman. By the way, my power rankings, the top 3 teams are all in our division, Hillers. So that's fun.
We're not the guys from the universe.
We're the masters of the universe.
Masters thereof. Yeah.
Hillers, do you have wild cards?
I think well, you're a wild card, and I think probably Dad Dix is the other one. Yeah.
I've got you and CTR.
I would love that, but God, it's gonna be so hard. It's gonna be so hard to get
Any
there.
champion predictions?
No.
No.
I shit the bed so hard last year. I don't think my champion pick even made the playoffs.
Your boy picked the right champion last year. I'm just saying.
Wow, amazing. Well done.
Yeah. The power rankings
what?
work.
You know what? I'll throw in for Larf this year.
All right.
Yeah, dark horse.
I have.
You have to say if you're going to be a champion this year.
Yeah. I'm picking me to repeat just based on the power rankings, and I'm gonna beat Nick again. We're gonna rematch.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I don't know.
I can't wait to enjoy that day again.
Yeah, God, that was brutal. All right, well, that's it.
Oh yeah, wait, no, just final thoughts.
Yeah.
Each of you give me 2 or 3 sentences on what the final day of the championship match was like for you two coming in at one of the closer championships we've ever had.
It was New Year's Eve, first of all.
Wow.
I will tell you this, is that, as the runner-up, I know that at going into the 4 o'clock games, I was starting to feel, I was like, oh, well, this is kind of... I know when Hurts threw that touchdown to
Goddard.
I was like, oh, well, that's...
Because I had both of them.
Like, I was like, that's game. Like that
Back
was
block.
game. And I remember that at one point, McLean came downstairs and I was starting to get really angry. And I was like, yeah, Merrill beat me. And I was down by like 20 points. And I was like, Merrill beat me, and that's fine. And then there was like 5 minutes left And I looked at it and I was starting to get excited. It's like, I thought you lost. I was like, look at the score. And I was down by like 4 points. And it was because Harrison Bucker was just like killing it. And I was like, all I need is basically one catch from Kelsey right now. That's all I needed. It was so close.
It was 2.5 points it came down to,
Wow.
which is wild. And
Absolutely
yeah,
insane.
Lamar Jackson that day I was up
40.
at my sister's. It was New Year's, and my sister had to take their son to the hospital because he fell in the playroom. And so we're back watching our niece, and I'm sitting here, watching.
Watching Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. Meanwhile, more watching Lamar Jackson put up, I think, 45 points that day. And then Harrison Butker put up like 30 as a kicker. And I'm thinking, I'm going to get kickered in the championship. This is awesome. And
That's what you deserve for your crimes.
but it was weird because Nick had like a few kind of blow up scorers, and then my team was just all like 15-point scorers, and it just came down to like the final. And it was crazy. And then I fell, and Nick was very classy. As soon as it happened, he called me, congratulated, conceded the election right away. Very patriotic. I was very classy, and I really appreciate that, Nick, because I know, as somebody who's been there a few times, it sucks so bad getting that close and not winning.
It does.
The rest of the league
Because
was
it feels like
your name.
it feels like you might never get back, right? Because it's like, God, I got so close.
I was thinking about this earlier today, where I was like, so I started Zamir White over James Conner, right? Like that was my thing. That was my biggest
big one too. Yeah.
move. But again, 99 times out of 100, when you look at it and say that the guy that you're going to pick up on the waivers, he's going to put up 17 points. Like, yeah, you know what? I'm starting him. Like that's fine.
Those what ifs will eat you alive.
That's a good start.
You got
You got 17 points out of the guy. I mean, it's a good start.
Like that was fine. I benched someone who I benched someone for someone that put up 17 points. That was the right play, and it was the right play. And Zamir White needed to be in my lineup. Unfortunately, it was Austin Eckler that I needed to bench. And you know what? I wasn't going to bench Eckler because
you weren't.
What if? Hear me out.
What if you?
What if he was good?
Yeah.
What if he was Austin Eckler for that one game?
And you bench him, and
you never forgive yourself.
Yeah. I'm going to lose Austin Eckler in my lineup, and that was fine.
So, all right. Well, enough about you two. Let's hope it never happens again. Happy season, everyone.
Happy season, everyone. For Nick, for Hillers, signing off. Talk to you guys later.